Okay. Okay. 171. Okay, so where are we? Where are we in the story? Where are we in the story? Okay, where are we in the story? Where we are in the story is Yaakov leaves, right? We touched on that somewhat before. Goes to Lavan, goes to the house of his uncle, and spends a good amount of time there, over 20 years over there, right? And now he's on his way home. He's on his way home. Now, let's just recap where we are. When we started this thing, Yitzhak, dad, right? Jacob's dad, has a certain vision for his children. Rivka has a better vision for her children, right? Rivka wins out, of course. Obviously, she wins out. And it manifests the way it's supposed to, right? Yitzhak's vision for his children is that we're going to separate the world order, that Esav is going to be Mr. Practical, the person who takes charge of the physical world and manages it and deals with practical world issues, right? And builds his children to do the same. And Yaakov is going to be the teacher, the educator, the rabbi, the mystic, the thinker, the like that. So Yitzhak's vision is this type of world, a bifurcated world, speaking to each of his children's strengths, right? Rivka, having had the benefit of the fact that she carried these babies, she has a sense of the struggle that was going on inside of her that was meant to describe something more. And when she goes either to the Bet Midrash of her great-great-grandparents, Shem Va'eved, or she has her prophetic vision, she's told that what you're experiencing, this struggle that's going on inside of you, is a description, it's a portal to the struggle of all time that will end only at the end of time. And therefore, the effort to go like this doesn't work. It's not going to be Esav, working the toll booth, so to speak, and Yaakov in the yeshiva. It can't be that way. Rivka understands that. She guides her son to take secondary blessing, like we talked about last time. The primary blessing can only be given by God, but she guides her son to take secondary blessing number 2 from his father, which speaks about,
Somebody at the
which speaks about success in the practical world, right? Rivka moves things over because she understands it differently. She understands that in order for there to be Yaakov in the world, in Israel, a Torah in the world. How are you? Hi, how are you? Welcome back. Nice to see you. In order for there to be in Israel, right? Jacob, Yaakov has to know both. So what Rivka says is that we can't go like this. We can't make it Mr. Practical and Mr. Torah. It can't work that way. We have to build that person together as one person so he could father the Jewish nation.
But it's interesting, she didn't talk to her husband about it and she went behind his back.
She goes behind his back, right? Exactly. That's right. She absolutely does. But what's very interesting when you look at the verses, he immediately gets it right after he gives it. Right after he gives it. By the way, I hold that he knew it all along. When he says, Kol Yaakov Yadayim Esav, that the voice of Jacob and the hands of Esav, he already knew. I hold that he wasn't duped, he wasn't conned. That's my particular approach on it. And I personally believe that the verses support that. But even if you say that he was fooled for a minute, he ends up immediately afterwards, right? And this is very important. He ends up immediately afterwards telling the one who stole the beracha, so to speak, that he wants him to go to his uncle's house, marry the people with the same values as mom, right? and he never chastises him. He doesn't, God forbid, curse him, right? If you lie to your father, is that a problem? It's not a problem. He never chastises him. He doesn't discipline him. By the way, we see that people discipline people in the Bible, right? Yaakov disciplines Shimon and Levi. We'll see that later on. But Yitzhak never disciplines him. And in fact, he tells him almost immediately, not only is it okay what you did, but you know the primary blessing, the one that we really all pine for, the one that only God could give, and he gave it to Grandpa Abraham, and he gave it to me. He's going to give that to you. He doesn't threaten him. He doesn't discipline him. He doesn't anything him. Was he fooled for a minute? I think. Did he catch it pretty quickly? I think he did. And now what happens when Yaakov goes away, right? He sees, now let's get into what's going on now. So he goes away, right? Last week's parasha, right? Stop me if we're not clear. And what does he see? He goes to Mount Moriah, where the temple would ultimately be, and he sees this ladder that's anchored in the ground, that's reaching through to the heavens, right? This extraordinary sight he sees. Okay, good?
In a dream.
Huh?
In a dream.
In a dream, right. In a halom, exactly. In a dream. Excellent. Which is a very low grade prophecy. Excellent. It's not a high grade prophecy. He's not there yet. So he gets a low grade prophecy by a halom. It's a dream. Excellent. And he sees this. And what does he see?
Angels.
No.
Or what?
Anger?
Angels.
Oh, angels.
Not anger.
He sees angels, right? Right, very good. And he sees the angels, right? We talked about this in the past, starting down here, going up and coming back down. Good. So what does he see? And this is important. What Yaakov Avinu sees at that point, at the beginning of his journey, is that the delta between this world and the next world, there's no space. There's not a break in the ladder. The ladder doesn't go up to the top of the physical heavens, stop, and then start again in spiritualville. It doesn't do that. The ladder goes all the way up, uninterrupted, with the angels starting down here, going up and coming back instantly and constantly. And who's Nitzav on the top? Who's standing dominantly on the top of the ladder? God. Good. So what is Yaakov's vision when he sees this? What's the point of this? The point is for him to understand that these worlds are absolutely connected, seamlessly connected. Okay? So listen, Mr. Yaakov, I want to tell you something. You thought yourself that the practical world was Esav's domain. You thought that's where he was going to rule, and you were going to go to your more private place. That's not the way it works. You see these two worlds? They're not bifurcated. They're one. And you've got to learn that, Yaakov. You've got to learn that. In fact, Grandpa Abraham was taught that a lot of angels hang out right here, down here in the practical world. Huh? The what? Yeah, that's right. The 3 angel men that visited him, right? They stayed here.
That's why
right?
it starts on the bottom. And doesn't start
Exactly.
on the top
Excellent.
coming down.
Excellent.
Starts on
Now,
the bottom, they're here.
beautiful. Now, one other key point here. So, Yaakov learns early in his journey to become a practical, tough, worldly guy. What he learns early in his journey, that these worlds, Mazal, are absolutely connected, okay? And we need to think that way as well. It's not here and then here. It's here for all of us, right? And then he's taught one other very important thing. He's taught the concept at that point that the Sadiq, the righteous person, I'll remind everybody what a righteous person is in a minute. The righteous person can control what goes on up there. So, Lori, even though we say that up there is the domain of the metaphysical, God and his angels, right? We don't hold that way. We hold that the Sadiq, the person who's constantly growing, the person who's constantly articulating new areas of possibility based on his or her strengths, and chasing them can reach into this world and change things.
Yeah.
Good?
No. She's saying.
No?
How? She's saying no.
Okay, no, it's not. No problem. Good. How do you change things up there? Good. So tell me. So what
By
would you
changing
think?
things down here.
Huh? By changing
By
things
changing
down here.
Automatically
Beauty.
goes.
Beauty, beauty. So is something absolutely destined from up there? Never. Do I have impact on what comes?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Is it action, reaction, reaction, action, reaction? It's action, reaction this way, action, reaction the other way.
So when you pray for Kaddish, like for someone, you're really affecting their.
Yeah, possibly affecting, right? Possibly affecting,
But they
right?
say that
Every
it lifts them
action
higher.
has an metaphysical impact, every
Mhm.
action. And the tzaddik, the person who's pushing and building and trying, he or she has an exceptional opportunity to impact the overall story. Okay, good. So Yitzhak gives the beracha to the wrong guy, so to speak, right? So to speak. That wrong guy sets on his way, right? Armed with two. Oh, by the way, at the end of the Sulam, at the latter episode, what beracha does Yaakov get?
To be Yisrael.
The top one. Not that yet, not yet. We're going to
Sorry.
talk about that now. He gets the one that Abraham, we're not even going to go there. He gets the one that God gave to Abraham and God gave to Isaac.
All right.
Okay, so the top beracha that only God could give, Isaac now has it. Right?
Jacob.
Excuse me, Jacob now has it. Sorry, Jacob now has it. So Jacob is told with two berachot, right? The giant one, the more practical one. He now understands the way the world and the metaphysical world work. By the way, if he can access that world, can we? Of course we can. None to talk about. All day long. All day long. Okay? The greater a person is striving to grow and to be and to become, the greater access he or she has. But everybody has access because, again, there's no thick wall here. There's nothing. It's porous. It just keeps going. Good?
But it can be in the smallest thing.
Yeah.
The smallest thing. You don't know how
Yeah, it
it's
could
going
be
to
the
impact the
smallest thing.
rippling effect.
Perfect.
So
Could
wait,
be
so
small.
the bottom is life and then it's afterlife?
No,
No?
no. It's all life.
So.
It's what's going on in a physical domain that we overwhelmingly interacted, and in a metaphysical domain that we're also interacting in. We're just not paying enough attention to it.
I once learned that at the same time our world is going on, that world is going on, but we're not intellectually be able to see it. But
Well, we
it's
can
all
see it.
going on at the
The answer is we can't. The answer is we can see much more than we think. We just need to start. We need to start with the perspective.
Like a sixth sense.
Yeah.
Like the people that have a sixth sense.
People, everybody has it. Listen. Everybody has it. They don't use it. Everybody has a sixth sense. Everybody can think beyond the constructs of their brain. Everybody has a limited amount. We talked about this, Rachel, a year or two ago. A limited level of Ruach HaKodesh. Remember, everybody has that.
Mhm.
A limited level of divine wisdom. Everybody's got it. The way to start accessing it is to first start with an understanding that you have it. Okay?
Mhm.
Shelley? You with me or not?
I'm with you.
It's a
He's looking at
resource.
me like, what the heck am I doing?
It's a resource inside of you that has to be tapped into.
That's right.
So you have it.
And it ain't hard to do. It's very easy to do. You start with the awareness.
Day.
Huh?
How do you make it like an everyday existence?
Okay, I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how.
Behavior.
Very good. First of all, you have to, one of the key elements is, and you have to be sharpening your mind every day. That's the thing. And even if it's 5 or 10 minutes of Torah study, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, by the way, everybody's got 5 or 10 minutes. If it's 5 or 10 minutes, in other words, our minds don't stay where they are. Our minds either become sharper or become the opposite, right? So the premise of all of this is I'm engaging God's words directly every day, whether it's God's words or the words of the rabbis who are interpreting his words. I'm sharpening my brain. And by sharpening my brain, I'm making my access that much more effortless. It's so effortless. And you see it. How do these great rabbis or great female scholars, how do they have so much access to put ideas together on such a high level? Why? Because they're living in a world of knowledge. Imagine if your world, let's say you're building your world, right? What does my world look like? My world looks like a knowledge fest. That's what my world looks like. And everything else fills in around that. I'm not disrespecting anything or anybody. I don't go to a class. I'm in a knowledge zone all the time. Oh, and I have to do that class as part of it.
So it becomes who you are.
Huh?
Becomes
It's
your
who you
identity.
are. I am a knowledge acquisition machine. That's what we are, a knowledge acquisition machine. We're going to use that. KAM, all right? Knowledge acquisition machines. And how do you get that? We get it from what we call kviut, which is consistency, regularity, right? So the fact of the matter is, and some of us have talked about this, 10 minutes a day is 10 times better than an hour a week. 10 times better. And one day I'm going to do it because it can't be the same. No, what do you mean? You're going to give me 60 minutes or whatever, or 5 minutes a day, which is better? I'm talk about 5 minutes a day better. What do you mean? 5 minutes a day only ends up to 35 minutes. It doesn't. The 5 minutes a day compounds and it compounds and it compounds and it's compounds.
It's like
Right?
exercise.
Huh?
Like exercise.
Like exercise.
Constantly
Like
to be
exercise.
flexible mentally.
I'm not exercising no matter what anybody. I'm not doing it. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
That makes
Mhm.
that makes the intuition open up like the.
Absolutely right. That's right. That's exactly right. Huh?
It keeps you going.
Let's make learning.
Right now, when I open a book like this, right, whatever it might be, any Torah-oriented book, what am I doing? I'm stepping into another space. I'm stepping into another space. Now, it could be this book. It could be a book that a Torah scholar thought. It could be anything on a challenging level. It needs to be somewhat challenging. So when I step into something somewhat challenging and I'm pushing myself and I'm digging deeper and I'm looking wider, everything, my zone, I break out of that zone. Good. It's like the exercise, right? How does a person get to he's lifting 50 pounds, 100 pounds, that, right?
Your body produces serotonin, melatonin.
Very good. Very good. Your mind does whatever its terms are. That's what your mind does. Smart begets more smart. Enlightened begets more enlightenment and more and more and more. So we want to reach this thing where we see our ladder, where we see it. It means consistency. It's only about consistency. 10 minutes a day and by the way, and it has to be hard. If it's not hard, people keep telling me, okay, so get off this stuff and teach something like these other people are teaching, where everybody gets to feel good, everybody walks out, everybody remembers virtually nothing.
You're right.
I'm never going to do it, even if I'm talking to myself, which I am more often than not. I'm not doing it. Okay, I'm not going to do it. Why? Because the whole point that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us this opportunity, right? He gives it to everybody, no matter where you are, what point you are in your life. And by the way, I saw that they showed me in the Kollel a couple of days ago, they showed me there's a group of Jewish guys who got together now. They're putting 100 Torah books a month online for free access.
Wow.
100 a month. This is a time in Jewish history that's just, you can't even fathom. Who could ever fathom that, right? 100 a month. It's the access. Just about everything is in English. Who ever heard of such a thing? But the most complex writings are in English too. And they're not sketch English, quality stuff. So this is what you want. So you want to access, God, if you want to access that thing, We got to sharpen the mind. And it's got to be this way and this way. It's got to be more content and it's got to be more difficult content. If you're not breaking your head, it's not enough. You got to break your head. You got to say, what the heck did that mean? I understood 10% of what I read. Great. Now you go back at it again. You work it again. You push it again.
It has to be done in the morning.
Huh?
It has to be done in the morning.
And then.
Whatever works for you. I'm
And
not going to
then-
go there.
Yeah.
Good.
And then
Yes.
how do you apply it?
You don't have to apply it. Great.
Why
Great.
not?
Great. You're excellent. This is an excellent point. Say your question again.
No, after you
Jem.
read and learn and grow and expand, then comes the application.
Listen, very careful. Very, very important. Jim is saying, where do you apply it? I'm saying, don't think about applying it.
Right.
Don't even think about it. Just think about more intellectual growth, more knowledge, more
Right.
intellectual growth, bigger library, more access, more papers everywhere, more things. Just that. Don't think of applying it. No, this is very important. I'm so happy you made
Yeah,
that.
because I think you have to apply it.
No, but you
No,
don't have to. Just
Because it
create a
becomes
core
so
value in your life where you're learning for the sake of learning.
Mhm.
That's it. And you
One
know what
part of it.
ends up happening, right? To address what we started, where we started to think, you're going to apply it naturally. You're not going to think about it.
Right.
You're not going to think about it. Okay, good. So,
How about listening? Is listening okay? Listening, learning Torah. Does listening
yeah,
count?
as long as you're actively
Yeah, of
involved.
course.
If you're down, if you're
To a class, I'm saying.
I
just
did it
sitting
every
there
morning.
listening and not talking,
Yeah.
it's worthless.
Oh,
Okay, it's worthless because I'm telling my kids, my grandkids, whatever, they go to these classes, they listen for an hour, they come back to the Shabbat table. What did he talk about? One thing, you got up 10 minutes ago. You're an intelligent person.
right.
So if it's not interactive, then it has very limited value because it just passes right through the short-term memory and doesn't stick.
Mm.
You have a pen in your hand, you're going to remember more. You interact, you're going to remember more. You struggle, you're going to remember more. Right? That's the way it has to be. Okay? Good.
But what about all these people that are listening to classes online and Zoom and
Well, maybe.
you
they're taking
you
notes.
can't minimize it to nothing because some
Okay.
people do.
I'm not
absorb
saying it's
more.
nothing, but I'm
Yeah.
saying if you want
It's
to
more
break
important to
through,
interact.
if
Right.
you want to break through, if you want to be able to be in this, to touch on this extraordinary world of knowledge, knowledge. By the way, there's no better party that anybody will ever attend than this one. There's no better one.
So you have to engage.
Huh?
You have to engage.
You have to
can't just
engage.
Be passive and listen.
Yeah.
You have to engage.
That's right. You have to have a library. You have to be in 10 different books at once. My mother used to ask me, son, do you read all these books? Remember? You say, son, do you read all these books? The answer was yes and no. The answer was, I'm in 10 different books. Will I ever finish any of them? Probably not. And that's a good thing. So, yeah.
So what does this blend of the man look like, the practical and the mystical religious? Like, what's the ideal?
Excellent,
Personal
excellent,
development
excellent,
stand.
excellent question. So the ideal is that a person's life is his kiviut, his esek or hers is learning chesed mitzvot, love and relationships. That's my life. Learning Torah, doing chesed, doing mitzvot, love and relationships. That's my life. Now, that's my life. That frames how I look at the world and how I build my day. Now let me figure out how I'm going to do all that and make a successful living, right? It shouldn't be, I'm building a business. By the way, everybody should build a business, build 10 business, build 50. Nothing wrong with that. It's great. But what I want to be doing is I want to be doing that in the context of something, right? And the context is learning, mitzvot, chesed, and love and relationships. That's the context. Okay, good.
Sport and
Learning,
Torah,
Torah, doing mitzvot, chesed, doing chesed, right?
Mhm.
And important relationships, huh?
That's also learning from your family, watching them do it.
Yeah,
That's
good,
what
for sure.
actually instills you in growing up how to put your life on a certain path.
Great, beautiful, love it. Yes, yes. Okay, now, here we are. 22 years later, Jacob, what does Jacob do? He goes to the school of really hard knocks, right? To the house of Lavan, right? And what does he do? He beats him at his own game, right? Lavan is the trickster. He's a dishonest business person, right? He changes his. By the way, Lavan doesn't push back when Yaakov tells him, "You changed my salary 10 times." Doesn't say, "No, I didn't." He didn't tell him. He didn't tell him, "You didn't put all kinds of stumbling blocks in front of me." He did. He was complete bum, and that's exactly what Jacob's mom, Rivka, knew he was. She knew who he was. She understood who he was, and she insisted that her son go through that school. Why? Because he needs to be able to manage the two. I got to be able to deal with the worst of the worst and stay the best of the best.
It's hard.
It's the hardest.
No?
It's the hardest. But that's our mandate. Now, fast forward to where we are today. That was the platform, right? Where are we today? Now, Yaakov is back on his way back home, right? 20 plus years later, he's on his way back home. And he meets up, huh? Home, Israel. He's back home to Israel. Well, he was in Haran. He was outside of the land, north of the maybe Turkey, you'd call it today, probably. He's on his way back home. And what happens? He meets up with his brother before the angel. He meets up with his brother. Now, it's very, very difficult that he meets up with his brother. Why? The countries are pretty big. And what are the chances that the two of them are going to meet? The chances are almost zero. What do you mean? You're going through this part by the way, Esav doesn't live there. His big bad brother doesn't live there. What are the chances of them bumping into each other? Zero. Right? Zero. Now.
Wait, are we saying that Esav is bad?
No,
No.
I'm just.
But he's not coming as Yaakov.
Huh?
He's coming as Israel, different,
Okay, let's see.
he's in a different mindset.
Very nice. Let's see. He's not coming. He didn't get there. That's right. Good.
No, that he
Good.
already changed his name. Hashem. gave
Not
him
yet.
a
We
name.
didn't change the name yet. We're not there. We're going to change the name in a few minutes.
Okay.
Good. Excellent. We didn't change it yet. Very good. The chances of them meeting are really zero. Now, we don't see a word hine in here, which some of us learned together means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu intervened in the process to create circumstances that would otherwise never have been created. God didn't make this happen, Leslie, so who did?
That's weird.
Who did? Somebody did. No. What do you want to say? Who did?
No.
Maybe Yaakov did.
Laban.
Maybe Yaakov did, huh?
Laban.
Yes. Hi, Flora.
Hi, Laban.
You should know.
What?
What you said, Laban.
Laban made the chance to
Maybe Laban made it happen. Okay, nice.
They go that way, the way Esav was there, there was no.
Could be. I don't know. Could be, but
They didn't have GPS.
That angel had Esav.
right.
No,
Good.
no, no.
Good.
Sorry,
So he's making it happen.
Sounds
not
like
Esav, not Laban, Esav.
That Esav made it happen.
Yes.
Okay. And somebody makes it happen because naturally they would pass each other by and this wouldn't happen. Now, you would say, to Rachel's point, he sends angels to greet his brother Esav, right? He sends angels to greet him. But the angels are going to greet him once they know that they're in each other's zone, right? How did they get to each other's zone?
This land is,
He was
this
at
is his
Spring.
land. He said, here is the land of Esav.
Yeah. So let's say you were just going to Jerusalem. You weren't going to the country of Israel, which was much bigger then, right? What are the chances of you just meeting up with somebody? And it's ancient times, and there's one fraction
But
of the
Yaakov
people.
was
There's
petrified.
one
It
road.
doesn't sound like he
They're
did.
not
Okay, very good.
It's not
I just want to raise the point. You're right. I want to raise the point that I don't believe you could hold that this was a chance meeting. I think somebody manufactured it. Maybe to Flora's point, Esav manufactured it, maybe somebody else. It doesn't appear from the language that God manufactured it. Maybe Yaakov manufactured it. I don't know. Again, it's hard to say Yaakov manufactured it because he is petrified, right? Good. Now, what's going on here? What's going on?
At the time?
Huh?
Where is Rivka?
Where
married?
is she? She's home with daddy.
Okay. I'm
She's
saying,
still
could
in
she
Israel.
have gotten?
No, she's home. She's home. Yaakov leaves, marries Leah, marries Rachel, marries everybody else, has all the kids, accumulates a lot of wealth, and now is on his way back home.
Right, no, it's just
Right.
because she's manipulative.
Right. She's the one who, we won't call her manipulative, but we're gonna call her wisdom. We're gonna say that she had great wisdom.
At the custom then though,
Huh?
they married the oldest one first. Wasn't that a
Okay,
custom?
so let's talk about that. Excellent. That's perfect segue. So now, Yaakov goes to a very difficult place for 20 years, right? And comes back with hardcore practical skills, right? The skills that he could never have had he not gone to one of the worst possible environments, right? That of Laban, right? He's taught how to do all the nasty things that you have to do to survive in a rough and tough world, right? He's just about ready to be the father of the Jewish people. He's almost there. Now, let's go through a few things that happened and are happening to him now, right? We're covering a lot of ground in a short time, but let's keep going. When he decides that he wants to marry Rachel first, the second sister, what does Laban do? What does Laban do? He switches, right? He switches, good. And what does he say? He switches and says, what?
To marry the older.
He says, we don't do this in our place, right? He says, Lo ya'aseh ken b'mkomotenu, lo ya'aseh ken b'mkomotenu. We don't do this in this place to give the younger daughter before the older daughter, right? What's going on here?
But he
What's
did
going
that
on?
at the last minute.
Huh?
He did that at the
Okay.
last minute.
What is going on here? Come on, remember something. Headline. I don't need to know silly stuff, right? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu's told me this story, there's something that everybody will learn each year for 120 years, God willing, when they read this again. So if Lavan duped Yaakov, and that's the story, come
It
on.
parallels him.
You
with
gotta
his
say,
father.
come on, huh?
It parallels him.
Hmm?
With him and his brother, how he duped his father. Isn't it a parallel?
Double do.
Double dupe.
No, it's definitely a parallel. Also, he's the second child. So
Yeah,
he's
there's
the
the parallel.
second.
What's that, Amy?
But yeah, there's the parallel where he's the second child and he received the beracha, the fat of the land, versus like Lavan doesn't want to do that for his youngest child. He's protecting. You can either say he's protecting his older child, and like maybe that's actually valid. I don't know.
Could
If
be.
that's
It could be.
It's the
I
same
want to
thing.
suggest the following approach. This is the approach of the Malbim and the Alshech HaKadosh. This is more midrashic, Kabbalistic approach, right? I want to suggest the following, that what Lavan was saying wasn't about switching a bride. Rachel is known to have been an overwhelmingly non-physical being. Rachel was, in the words of our rabbis, overwhelmingly spiritual.
And beautiful.
Yeah, Yifat Torah, Yifat Mareh, right. She is described as the non-physical lady. And what our rabbis say is, Rachel. And what our rabbis say is, even though Yaakov was sent to the school of hard knocks, right? Even though his mom Rivka knew that the only way for the Torah to work would be if he learned how to be a practical guy in the practical world, he wasn't sold on that. So when he goes after Rachel first, right? What is he looking for? He wants to skip the physical thing, go straight to the spiritual thing, and party in the spiritual world, right? It's all connected, right? If I have the lady who's gonna give me the ticket to get up here, I don't want to be here anymore. 1 second, Yaakov, we told you 6 times already. It doesn't work that way. Maybe, but I'm gonna make another shot. So when he goes after Rachel, the rabbis, this type of commentary says that he wanted to, even though he was sent in that direction by mom, even though he understood that you have to build one with the other, and you can, he says, but the truth, the real beauty, the real satisfaction, the real immersion in God's world is up here. And if Rachel could give that to me, I don't want to do this thing.
So he couldn't, yeah, he wanted to skip the.
You wanted to skip
the
this.
hard talk
Beautiful.
instead of-
Great.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
when did he go learn? Didn't he go learn?
Right,
When it was-
right, on the
So
way.
he went, was on the way. It was
Right, on the
before
way.
So he
Right,
had-
on the way to Lavan. He said he took a period of years and was learning. Good. It builds the point, right? He's still running away from the thing.
He had to marry Leah. He had to.
So 1
marry-
second. So what does Lavan tell him?
Right.
It doesn't work that way, mister. It doesn't work that way, Bimkomotenu. In this world, you can't skip the practical to get to the spiritual. You have to go through the whole process. So even though you think you want to leapfrog the process and go to Rachel, you can't do it. Work Shavua, work 7 days, 7 years, we're not clear what it was. And then you'll get there. What is he telling him? He's telling him, here we go again. It doesn't work your way. Didn't you hear what mommy told you? Didn't you get the beracha that daddy gave you? Don't you understand what's going on here? Even though wouldn't we all love it to work where we didn't have to deal with practical challenges and pressures and all kinds of crazy things that go on in the world? Wouldn't that be a much better life if I could skip it and go straight to the spiritual? Who wouldn't buy that ticket? Everybody would. So Yaakov goes for Rachel, according to this approach, because he doesn't want to deal with the practical stuff. He doesn't want to deal with war. He doesn't want to deal with pain. He doesn't want to deal with poverty. He doesn't want to deal with challenge. He doesn't want to deal with it.
But it wasn't,
Huh?
it wasn't in the plan.
It's not the plan, period. It's not the way God sets up the world. The way God sets up the world is you have to build with a Leah, right? Leah is really the mother of the Jewish people, not Rachel. Leah is the mother. She gave birth to more people than Rachel and the 2 concubines put together. Huh? There's no question. The soap opera side of the thing. Huh? Huh?
I'm saying this man did not love this woman.
What's it?
And
What was that?
So let's do this. Gailey, my Gailey did a skit on this once. It was so funny. He did a skit on this once where he had Yaakov, remember? Yaakov, Rachel, and Leah go to a therapist and to try to work out their problem. It's his therapy. You remember? You don't remember.
According to the effort is the reward. Simple
Huh?
as that.
What?
says over here, ויבוא גם לרחל ויהב גם את רחל
He
עם
loves her
לאה.
more.
Yeah,
גם
He loves her, but he
and
loves
right, excellent. In the end, he definitely loves them both.
he loves her.
And the builder is Leah. The real builder is Leah. So what is Yaakov shown? And this is the early stages, well, early-ish stages when he's with Lavan, the first X number of years, right? Close, first 7, 8 years. He's shown that you can't leapfrog the process. You can't jump over the practical world, which is rough and tumble and pain and disappointment and challenges and all that stuff that real life is, to get to the spiritual, even though we all know that's where we want to be, because the practical is the way the world works. Good?
Yeah, that was in the garden,
Huh?
when we sinned. You have to,
Have to leave. the
when
garden.
in the Garden of Eden, when they. sinned.
That's right. Very good. You have to do it here. You have to build here. Very good. Now, we're gonna jump forward some more, right? Now we're in this thing where he meets Esav, right? He meets Esav. Good. So here we are back at this place, right? Good. I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're just gonna go to the second part of the story. We're just gonna go to the second part of the story. in the second part of, not the second part, the middle part of the story, he's about to greet his brother. He's concerned, he's panicking, he's trembling, right? And he has this vision or this experience with something the night before they meet, right? He has this experience with something. Now, depending on which of the rabbis you go with, he could have been wrestling with Samael, who's the angel of Esav, who's the angel of rough and tumble world. He could have been having a dream. He could have been wrestling with himself. Right? The way we're gonna explain it this time is as follows. If he was wrestling with the angel of Esav, with Samael, as he's called, right? He's wrestling with his own problem now that he does get caught up in the practical world. He is somebody in the practical world. And the teasings of the practical world became what he was. Remember, the Midrash says he crossed back over the stream to get the 2 small jugs. How excessive is that? Right? For what? Why? Because I did it. I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm a practical world guy. My worldview is work and focus and career, and that valuable, but that became his primary view. So maybe when he's struggling that night before he meets up with the embodiment of the practical world, he's struggling with the angel of Esav, who came to see, you know what, maybe I can drag him all the way here. Kill the spiritual side, and we are good to go. We're in a great place here. And then what happens the next morning? He meets his brother, and they become one. They walk together as one. He has 15 years, 20 years, whatever you want to call it, in the house of Lavan. He becomes just like him, at least in his practices, his ability to outwit him. And now Samael is going to take him and put him right over the top and make him one of the boys, make him a person that is no longer chasing the spiritual first, but is chasing the practical with a little bit of room for the spiritual.
Is that why he bowed so many times?
Huh?
Is that why he bowed so many times then?
Let's see. Beautiful. Hold that. Yeah? You with me? Yeah.
What percent of each should a person have? Because why does it he have to be totally practical or totally spiritual? You know what I mean? Like,
So we
what-
say the system is 51-49 now. The way God set up the system, it's either 51-49 or 50-50 in terms of the overall construct of things. 51 being physical, 49 being spiritual, or 50-50, or 50-50. Spiritual is less. The 50-50 is very hard though. Even though it's 50-50, it's still very hard because we still live in a physical place and physical is still more pervasive. So we're going to say one option is that he was engaged in the practical now, and the angel of Esav was there just to drag him a little further over. So now they become partners, right? The other explanation is that he was fighting with himself. That fight with himself wasn't about him and that night. That fight with himself was about us and our journey until the end of time. And that struggle that night with the angel or with himself was a struggle that we are destined to live until time ends. We say the year 6,000, right? Something like that. Until time ends, and this balance of physical, spiritual is no longer as strong on the physical side, and it becomes a much more spiritual existence. So maybe what Yaakov is struggling with is what we will be struggling with. And this story is not about Yaakov and the angel that happened that night, or Yaakov and his conscience that happened that night. This is the story of all of us and everything we will face and our lives throughout time. And that's what I believe it is. God doesn't have to tell us.
It's
Huh?
conscience.
Could it be that he was scared because he took his birthright?
Because he was what?
He took his birthright and he knew he took it.
He didn't
So
want
it's
it.
his
He didn't
conscience,
want it.
guilty
His son didn't want
conscience.
it.
Still, I'm sure he
didn't
wasn't
want it.
scared. Wasn't scared. Look,
They said he took
I
it.
fooled my father,
He,
and now it's in front of him. Now his brother's coming to meet him.
so was he scared?
Stop in and forget what
The
happened.
text certainly says he was scared, yes. The question is, what was he scared about? If he was scared that he might join him and they would
Scared about the
partner,
future?
huh?
You're telling me he was scared about the future?
Beautiful.
That's what-
That's what I'm saying. Fantastic. That's exactly what I'm saying. Where is this going? Am I so much like him that I'm going to join him? What do you mean? Aren't I the guy that chased Rachel rather than Leah? Aren't I the guy that said, I don't want to do the practical stuff, leave me alone? Right? And you forced me there, but now I'm there. I don't know. Am I that close to it? And what does it all mean? And by the way, and we'll wrap up with this, this is not the Yaakov Esav story that happened then. This is everything now, right now. It's us each and every day of our lives. What am I doing? Am I watching the news for the 34th time today? Or am I opening a Torah book? What am I doing? Oh, it's a very real question. This is what he's dealing with. Yeah.
So the angel that came to him, Hashem sends the angels. No, it's not a random angel.
Excellent.
Decided to
Excellent.
come down on him.
Yes.
So Hashem is sending him a message.
Excellent. Excellent. Good. The message could be, listen, Yaakov, you moved a little too far in this thing.
Correction.
You moved a little too far in terms of the practical. Let's recalibrate. And he's struggling with it because he didn't come from that place. He was inculcated to that place for a long time. And now he's got to choose a life direction, right? What does the angel tell him at the end? Ki sarita im Elokim ba'anashim batucham. Right? What does that mean? You struggled with the God and you struggled with the people and you triumphed. Meaning what? You can pull it off. The spiritual can thrive in a rough and tumble and not always good, in a world filled with evil sometimes. The spiritual can thrive. And Jacob, you and your children will get there. And I think that's the message here. It's not a message for the moment. It's a message for all time, knowing that we're going to be pulled in that direction. Existentially, not only individually, but existentially as a people, we're going to be pulled in that direction. And what is it going to be? Am I going to have to make a choice between one and the other? No, you're going to be conflicted for your whole time until we reach a point where we've elevated ourselves and the world so much that we're living in Rachelville, right? We're living in Rachelville. If we're putting 100 books a month free for anybody in the world to get to, we're speeding in that direction. Speeding, right? So I think that was what was going on. Huh?
Didn't the angel dislocate his socket?
Yeah.
So how do we explain
Yeah.
that?
How do you want to explain that? If
That's-
we're saying that that they were talking about this mahalach, this process, how would you explain it? That it caused him pain. There's a limp now. Huh?
Physical forever.
That's forever, right? So you're not running away from that, right? You're not running away from that. You're not running away from that. You can't leave your body, right? Yaakov said, let me just leave the body. Who needs it? I don't want it. I don't want it, right?
You have to be spiritual.
Of course. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I would. We all would. We all would. Who needs this? Who needs it? No, who needs it? We never wanted it. Yaakov never wanted it. We never wanted it. The only problem with that is Kadosh Baruch Hu says the way you're going to build the perfect person is with all these challenges. And without all these challenges, what did you do? So will you get to the Rachel reality at some point? Yes. God willing, if you keep building and struggling and whatever. But in the meantime, you have to put real building blocks on the planet. You have to build schools, you have to build buildings, you have to fight fights, you have to do all that stuff. But
Do you
eventually,
have to go skiing?
But yeah,
huh?
Do you have to go skiing?
but
If you're married to David, tell you, I
but
can't
yes,
say anymore.
it's a little bit parallels to me. seems to me it's a little bit like Modeh Ani. Abundant is your faithfulness.
Mhm.
So Hashem is saying, I'm with you all the way.
That's right.
You're
We're
gonna go
gonna get there.
struggles, but you're getting there.
You're gonna
So
get there.
Modeh Ani is when Hashem has faith in us.
That's right.
And so it's the same,
And we're gonna
same
get there.
idea.
Perfect, exactly. Frame this thing as not the struggle for the moment between two brothers with divergent world directions, as the eternal struggle. That's why it's recorded. That's why it's recorded in great depth. Okay? Great.
Excellent.
We covered a lot of ground. You feel
Excellent.
fine.
A lot, wow, that was powerful.
Thank you, Flora and Amy. Thank you.
Wow.